Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Suze, and on this channel, That Aussie Mum, we like to do all sorts of different things because jack of all trades, master of none. Today's video is going to be a booktube video, and we are going to be delving into all the books that I managed to read during April. So in April, I had 2 weeks worth of school holidays and Natalie got COVID. So I was stuck at home for an extra week. Oh no, stuck at home for an extra week, 3 weeks of holidays, lots of reading time, which is why I managed to get through a total of 8 books in April. Now, I work point 8. I don't get to read as much as I would like to. My reading goal for the year on Goodreads is 30 books for the year. I'm currently at 16 books, so I'm over halfway, and I'm just past a quarter way through the year. So I'm feeling good about that goal. But I did read 8 books in April. I'm very proud of myself. So actually, I probably read more than that. I read 9 books, at least 9, because I forgot about my Audible books. I did. I read 9 books, including audiobooks in April. So I'm going to show you the books that I read. It is a lovely eclectic mix of different books and different lengths and different genres, different authors, because as with everything that I do, I can't stick with just one thing. So the books that I'm about to show you that I read in April, they're not in any particular order because I can't remember the order of them all. 2 of them I don't have with me because I have lent them out to other people because I enjoyed them so much, and one of them is an audiobook. So I guess we'll make it easy and I'll start with the audiobook. So the audiobook that I did finish in April is Robin Hobb's Assassin's Apprentice. Now, I have been afraid to delve into Robin Hobb. I've heard so much about her. She's got so many books under her belt, and every person who reads fantasy loves Robin Hobb. I haven't found someone who doesn't like her. But I was scared because I've only just started getting into the fantasy genre, the adult fantasy genre, and I was worried it was going to be a bit too much. But since I've started reading Brandon Sanderson adult fantasy, I figured I'll jump in with an audiobook for Assassin's Apprentice. And I loved it. Now, I didn't particularly enjoy the narration of it. I actually found the narration of the audiobook to be quite irritating. I don't know, it just grated a little bit, but I really, really enjoyed the storyline. So for those of you who don't know, the Assassin's Apprentice starts off with a bastard son of a future king, and when this son turns up at a very young age, I think 5 or 6, the future king decides to do the right thing and step down and take his wife away, and this bastard son is brought up under the ex-future king's man in the stables. And it just goes through the growing up of this boy Fitz, and what his life is like in the castle as a bastard son, but also as someone having a particular magical gift and learning to become an assassin in secret. So there's a whole lot more to the story, and there's a lot of themes in there that I really, really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the magic system. I found it wasn't too confusing. It was a nice mix of magic system and reality type of thing, and it involves animals as well. He can talk to animals, and I really, really, really enjoyed Assassin's Apprentice, and I'm very much looking forward to reading more of Robin Hobb's many, many books. The second book on my list is not here with me because I've lent it to my mum, and that was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Now, I was very hesitant to read Where the Crawdads Sing, and people are going to get very upset with me, but I honestly thought it was super overhyped, and everyone was saying it was amazing, and I just thought, it can't be that good, can it? Like, it can't be that good. So, but I thought I'd put it off and I put it off and I put it off, and eventually I found it at Big W for $12, and I thought, no, blow it. Look, I'm just going to read it. I need something different from fantasy for a while. Let's see if this book is overhyped. I was completely wrong. The book is not overhyped. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I don't give star ratings for books, but I have to say that I loved Where the Crawdads Sing. And honestly, if you read one book in your whole life, it needs to be Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And I think the thing I loved about it the most is that there's a lot of scientific knowledge and biologist and marine biology knowledge in there that the characters are using. And the reason for this is that Delia Owens is actually a non-fiction writer who has written books like Cry of the Kalahari, and it's all been very science-based. And I really hope and pray that Delia Owens writes more fiction, because this book was amazing. The twists and the turns, and it was gritty and it was heartbreaking and it was all the things, all the feels, and I loved it so much. So I 100% recommend that one. The third book on my list that I picked up, and I only picked this one up because it was $2 at an op shop out at Boona, and it is by an Australian author, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the author, and I feel really bad about that, but I will pop that up with the cover so you can see who it is. But it is called The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, and it is very similar in vein to Where the Crawdads Sing, in that she's an orphan and goes through abuse and turns to nature for healing and things like that. It is very gritty. There's a lot of quite dark themes in it, and a lot of generational curse type themes in it. But in the end, it all works out. And it was well written. The whole flower aspect and the nature aspect of it, again, really spoke to me. I love nature and all that kind of thing, and it's got all that scientific stuff in it. And it was Australian, and it was really good to see this Australian author. And again, I loved it so much that I recommended it to someone else, and they're borrowing it at the moment, but I do recommend it as well, as long as you don't mind. There are some triggers in there in terms of abuse and kind of things like that. So just be wary of that. It is a contemporary modern story. Well worth the read though. The fourth book on my list is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, I have not read any of Emily Henry's other works, but I did see a couple of people on BookTok and on BookTube who had recommended Beach Read. It's a fast read, nice and quick, a really sweet romance. I actually didn't think I was going to enjoy this book, but I really did enjoy it, and I've actually gone and looked for some more of this style of contemporary romance. It was just fun and sweet and had a happy ending, and it was just so uplifting. But it is two rival writers who are out in a country town. They've both they're in a writing slump, and so what they do is they decide to swap their genres, which are very different, and see who can write a book and publish a book in their opposite genre first. And it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. It starts off, enemies to lovers, and just a nice quick read. When you have been stuck in the fantasy trenches, so to speak. Not that I'm bagging fantasy, because I love fantasy, but sometimes you need to get out of that headspace, and this is the perfect book to get you out of that headspace or out of a reading slump. The fifth book that I read was another new author to me, which is Jo Abercrombie. No, I have not picked up a Jo Abercrombie book before. This one is A Little Hatred, which is the first in a trilogy, which I don't remember the name of the trilogy. Let's see if it's in here. This is a grimdark novel, fantasy genre, very gritty. The characters are very gritty, and they're very gruff, and they're very rough, and they're not civilized. Put it plainly, the characters in this are not civilized at all. They're basically savages. But the story, it's multiple POV. There are a lot of points of view in this book. It follows about 4 or 5 points of view, which at first I was like, oh, that's too many. I don't know if I can handle it, but I ended up really, really enjoying it. And I'm very much looking forward to the next couple. But there's a lot of political intrigue in this one. There's a lot of war. There's revolution. It's just very gritty, very grim. If you don't mind swearing to every level, I'm talking every level, then go ahead. Like I said, grimdark, very gritty. The 6th book that I read in April is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, which is another fantasy novel. A little bit of horror and a lot of fantasy, a lot of magic. The magic system is really, really interesting. So basically, we follow 2 characters in this book. We follow Lynn, who is the daughter of the Emperor, and we follow Jovis, who is basically a smuggler, so to speak, who is looking for his beloved who just disappeared out of the blue. Don't know where she went. So we're following these two characters. Lynn just wants to prove herself to her father and that she can learn the bone shard magic that her father uses. He uses this bone magic to make constructs, which basically he takes parts of different animals to create these creatures, and he takes a bone shard from someone who has donated their bone shard in the tributes, and that it goes in written with a spell on it, I guess. It goes into these constructs to make them live, and they've got commands on them. So some constructs are really, really complex. I've got hundreds of bone shards on them with different codes or different spells on them. And then you've got really simple ones that have maybe 1 or 2 that might be a spy construct, and all they have to do is watch and report back to so-and-so. Lynn lost her memory, basically, and her father's trying to get her memory back. Her story is following her trying to get approval of her father to show that she will make a good empress when he does pass away. Jovis, however, is spending his time chasing around this ship with blue sails that he believes has stolen his beloved, and he desperately wants to get her back. And he's been searching for her for 7 years. And in the meantime, through all of this, he's become a smuggler. And he's also smuggling children away from the tribute ceremonies where they actually take the bone shard out of their neck. So it follows those 2 characters. There's a lot of twists. The end, I was going, oh my goodness, what? And I cannot wait for the second one. I actually have the second book, The Bone Shard Emperor, ready to read, ready to go. I believe there is a third one coming as well. I loved it. Lots of politics. The next book that I read was a YA, and that is Castles in Their Bones by Laura Sebastian. So Laura Sebastian also wrote Ash Princess, Lady Smoke. I can't remember what the third book is, but it is a YA. So Castles in Their Bones follows 3 sisters, they're triplets, who have been trained since birth to bring down kingdoms. So these triplets have been trained since birth. They were at birth, they were betrothed to the next in line for the throne for the 3 other countries on the continent, and they've been trained to destroy those kingdoms from within, so their mother can then come in and sweep in and save everybody and become empress overall. There is a really interesting magic system in this one. One of the countries abhors magic and will kill you for using your magic. Other countries use their magic for everything. So it's very interesting. It's very political, and it's very, I don't want to say it's tropey, but you can kind of guess what's going to happen. These girls have been trained up. They go off their separate ways to get married. It definitely leaves room for another book, and I was quite shocked by the ending. It is written in 3 points of view of the 3 sisters, so Sophronia, Daphne, and Beatrice are the 3 sisters. But I found the writing a little bit stilted because it is written in 3rd person present tense. So it's quite jolting, that third person present tense. I think if it had been third person past tense would have been better, or even first person present tense. But I feel like third person present tense is just a bit jarring, and you kind of come back to it and you open it and you kind of go, oh yeah, that's right, I got to get my head back in the game for that one. So as much as I enjoyed it, I didn't like the style, like the third person present tense, and I did find it quite tropey. You could kind of predict what was going to happen, which is not a bad thing. I mean, some people really, really enjoy that. The 8th book that I read, and oh my goodness, I love this book and I hope that there are more coming, and that is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Oh my goodness, I loved it. I loved it. I love anything Scottish, and even though this is set, I assume it's set in a fantasy world, obviously, but with Scottish folklore. So this book is set on a magical island called Cadence off the coast of the mainland, and this particular island is full of magic, but it's split down the middle. One tribe lives on one side of the island where the spirits, there's lots of, they can grow their food and the weather's nice and everything's lovely, but if they want to use magic themselves, it's a massive cost on them personally. So if they do too much magic, they can become sick and eventually die. The other side of the island, however, with a different tribe who lives there, they can do whatever magic they want and nothing happens to them bodily or physically or mentally or anything. There's no cost to using the magic. However, the land is completely barren, so they can't grow food, etc., especially in winter. And so they send raiding parties over to the other side of the island to steal food. It's quite violent, it's quite political, and these two characters, Adara and Jack, are trying to unite both tribes to make peace. The whole goal is to make peace. And there's a love interest, there's some romance, there's some war, there's some political intrigue. This book's got a whole ton of it, magic system, the whole lot, and lots of twists and turns. Really, really enjoyed A River Enchanted. If you get a chance to pick it up, I would do so. The last book that I read in April was Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. Now this book is a monster. Let me tell you, this book is a monster. And look how tiny the writing is. It's so tiny. Tiny writing. And it has got 719 pages with tiny writing. All right? This is a ripper book. This took me ages to read because I'd gone back to work as well by the time I started reading this one. Oh my word. I really hope there's more. I loved Empire of the Vampire. Gritty, dark, just vampires and magic and politics and fighting and love and twists and turns and all the things. I honestly love this book, and I think everyone should read it. The main gist of it is that the sun has been blocked. So vampires have been able to come out at all times. There's different kinds of vampires. You've got wretched who were killed and left and took ages to become vampires, but they're basically brainless, blood-sucking machines. Then you've got highborns, which are the vampires that become more like humans, and they're terrifying and they're magical, and depending on which of the 4 families they come from, they've got different things that they can do. So being able to speak to your mind and read your mind, or speak to animals, or incredible strength, or just being solid as a rock so you can't chop their head off, that kind of thing. And you follow this main character, Gabriel de Leon, and he is a half man, half vampire. So his mother was human and his father was a vampire. So he gets taken off to the Ordo Argent, where he learns to become a silver saint to help destroy vampires and save humans. And again, there's politics and there's religion and there's so much packed into this book. So many themes packed into this book. Faith, family, politics, religion, the whole lot is in here. And I love it. And I know I'm not very good at reviews and at telling you what stories are about, but you should read this. You really should, because it was awesome. So that's it, guys. My 9 books that I read in April. I was going to do a May TBR, but it is already the 5th of May, and I'm not so sure I want to bog myself down with I must read these things. So I'm thinking I may just not do a TBR and I'll just go and do another wrap up for May at the end, and we'll just see what I read, because I like to change my mind. I'm currently reading many things at once. So TBRs don't really work so well for me. But if you enjoyed that, please give this video a thumbs up. Click that like and that like button down below, as well as the red button. Subscribe would be great. I am really close to 1,000 followers, which would be so good if I could get there. You know, it would be nice to say before the end of May, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you know, miracles can happen. So please go ahead and click that subscribe button if you enjoyed that. If you have any more book recommendations for me to read in May or June or whenever, please go ahead and comment down below, because I love finding new books to read. I will also have links to all of the books that I read in the description box below so that you can go and find them. Yeah. So in saying all of that, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.